Let's get started. Welcome. I'm looking forward to talking about this. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're looking at talking about the potential tariffs and other challenges and how to respond to them by sourcing more economically, by negotiating a 9x multiplier. And we're going to do that right here. I'll walk you step by step through this. But the reason I'm particularly excited and looking forward to this is because so many people have told me that a 7x multiplier is impossible. Uh, People who come with us to China tell me that they think that a 7x multiplier is impossible until they do it themselves. And now I'm going to tell you, let's push that even further and do a 9x multiplier. So buckle up. Let's start this together. What is going on? Well, the U.S. is proposing a 60% tariff on goods from China, 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada, and a blanket 20% tariff on goods from all other countries. And the impact on your business can be decimating. If you're an Amazon seller, if you already have tight margins, the increased tariffs can kill your business. But that's not the only challenges coming up. Chinese factories are going to be selling directly to Western consumers. Shein, Temu, TikTok Shop, Amazon Haul is already doing it. Walmart.com. They're looking to get factories selling directly to US consumers. And consumers that are price sensitive, they will seek the lowest prices, even if they have to wait a few days. Then there's the Section 321 loophole. That's going to be removed, also known as the $800 rule or the de minimis rule. That's easily fixed. In case you don't know what the rule is, anything, if you're bringing stuff into the country under $800, you don't have to pay duties and taxes. And there is an exception to that. If you are an importer importing more than $10,000 worth of goods, then you do have to pay duties and taxes. And that's the loophole, because Shein and Temu and others, they're not importers, they're exporters of more than $10,000 worth of goods. That's easily fixed. Then there's the port workers strike, and they put that on the table until January. And then in October, they agreed to a 62% pay increase. Everyone thinks that's going to be easy because in January, they just have to follow up on the last major demand, which is automation. That's actually pretty big. So that point hopefully will be resolved, but if it's not, we can assume there'll be a strike, and that's going to be more congestion and frankly higher shipping rates. So what can you do? I've been to a few Amazon events recently, and I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, and the things I'm seeing and I'm hearing come down to sourcing outside of China, which is a good idea, but be aware that many countries have higher prices than China. Materials, particularly, since a lot of them come from China, and they still have to make money. Plus, there is the 20 to 25% tariff that's still going to be there. Then there's asking for tariff exemptions. And if this works, great. But it is a very, very long shot. And it's not something, frankly, you can build your business on. Speaking of building, you should be building your brand. When people love your brand, they're going to pay for it no matter what. They're not going to look off Amazon. They're not going to look at competitors. So build your brand. That's going to help you tremendously. It's not going to help with the tariffs. You still have to be profitable, but it's certainly going to help you as the number of e-commerce platforms increase. And then I hear people talking about using AI to help save you money. Product selection, differentiation, PPC. My answer is WTF. Really? If you're telling people with your expert opinion that using AI is going to solve the problems of not being profitable under tariffs, then you should be giving everybody their money back that they pay to see you and listen to you and learn from you, because that's just ridiculous. So what is my solution? Source products at a better price. Source them at a 9x multiplier. That's a much bigger margin. And since tariffs are based on price, your commercial invoice, your CI. The smaller amount of money you're paying for your products, the smaller dollar amount will be the tariffs that you're paying. That's simple math. Sun Tzu said, the battle is won before it's fought. That's perfect here, because the more that you're able to get your products at a lower cost, the more you'll be able to be profitable when you're out there selling it, whether it's on Amazon, whether it's on your own site, whether it's in stores. A lower price at the beginning helps you win at the end. Now, before we go further, I want to talk about multipliers. That is the ratio between the retail price, what you're selling your product for, or someone else is selling it for, on the retail shelf online, and the cost of manufacturing your product, the raw cost. Serious business coaches, they all say you need a minimum of a 7x multiplier. When I say serious coaches, I mean from the Small Business Administration. I'm talking about investors. I'm talking about SCORE. But in the Amazon world, gurus are telling you that a 3x or a 4x or a 5x even is okay. And a 5x, you're starting to get in the right neighborhood, but you really need to go further. But to say that a 3x or a 4x is okay, to say that a 7x is not attainable consistently, really? These 3x and 4x recommendations, they go back to 2014, back to the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule. The gurus and the people on YouTube don't teach you how to get a higher multiplier because they personally do not know how to consistently get a higher multiplier. Learn from them all about Amazon. Most of these guys really know what they're doing when it comes to Amazon. But when it comes to sourcing, when it comes to making sure you have products at the best price, then absolutely go for a high multiplier. You need high margins to make money. A 9x multiplier is very doable. And frankly, being a 7-figure seller means nothing if tariffs make you lose money on every single sale. In fact, do the math. If you're doing that much business, you're going to end up broke even faster because you're putting a bunch of money into inventory, and then you're losing money, hoping one day to magically start turning that around. And even if you do, you have to fill in the deficit of all the money you've lost beforehand. This is a business of money. I want you to be making money. And to do that, you have to get lower prices from your suppliers, or your business will be dead. Is it possible? Let's watch these videos.
I'll be totally honest. When we started, and Steven said 7x is something that's realistic and should be something that you can achieve. I looked at our numbers, knew our numbers, and I honestly thought there's no way we can get there. Last night had dinner, started discussing our new product, went into negotiations, and walked away, nearly 8 times multiplier starting out. So it's something that we have just kind of been soaking in class. And then now being here, I'm a visual person, so just visually being able to sit down, talk to the factory, it's really neat. And it's been huge to be able to put those two things together. And it's absolutely something that can be achieved.
When I first joined Steven's group, I heard him talking about a 7x multiplier, and I'm like, what? As if anyone is getting a 7x multiplier. I think, a 4x or a 5x would be extreme. But I kept an open mind about it. And I met a supplier yesterday, and straight off the bat, without, even any negotiation, I saw that I did the figures and worked out I'm getting an 8x. I could not believe it. And I said to him, is there any room for negotiation? He said, absolutely. And he also said that there's also room for negotiation with our payment terms as well. So I would never, ever have been confident enough to talk to these suppliers about these prices if I wasn't aiming for a 7x.
Yeah, she got a 12x multiplier plus 40-day terms. It's not luck. We taught her what to do. We'll teach you how to do it. I want you to watch this next video. You're going to see, you can start off right at the beginning. through nonverbal communication, through curated discussions. And as you establish your value, and right from the beginning, let them know that you are a boss. This is a video of shadow negotiation and occurred at the October Canton Fair just recently. The people with me here are Sadiq and Hind. We chose a random booth. We quickly figured out it was a factory, not a trading company. And we figured out what type of product we're going to ask them for. This factory made stuffed animals or plushies, stuffies, whatever you want to call them. So we went in. Right away, I asked if they do OEM. That means they're actually going to create the products that we tell them to do. Some people call that private label in the Amazon world. That's kind of a muddied definition, private label, white label. When you're actually serious and you're talking with factories, you want to ask for a factory that does OEM or ODM, which is when you buy something they have already made. But if you go OEM, it's always going to be easier to get a better price. So right away, we asked if they do OEM, and then I asked to speak to the boss, because in China, kings negotiate with kings. I'm not going to get the best prices if I'm just dealing with someone who is a sales rep, or even worse, at the Canton Fair, oftentimes they are temporary sales reps that were hired because of their proficiency in English. So right away, I asked for the boss. So we had to have an animal to tell them that we were making, and I wanted to appear that we had already thought about this. We weren't making it up on the spot, even though we were. And I happened to have a photo of myself with a red panda on my phone. So I brought it up and I said, this is what we want to do. We want to do a red panda. In life, it's adorable looking, very fluffy. So this would make a good stuffed animal anyway. We knew that our retail price, whether it's sold online or in stores, would be around $20. So with charm pricing, that's when you make it slightly less. We knew that the retail price was going to be $19.99. So with that, we started talking. And as you'll see, the opening price that she gave us was $4 a unit. Now, as I said, and you'll see this in a moment, coming in right away, I established that I was a boss and I wanted to deal with a boss. And you'll see how that impacts right from the beginning and then throughout the rest of the negotiations. Let's begin.
Okay, yeah, so I just watched Steven do a negotiation with a toy plush factory. We sat down and instantly the lady that was there, she just knew right away that Steven was the boss. And Ultimate started treating him with respect and knew that he was like a serious guy, which was really interesting to see because I don't really see that often. And as soon as we sit down, we're looking at the toys, and Steven, like the boss that he is, he's like, the lady's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be $4 for 500 pieces, and he's just like, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this reasonable, or should we be looking someplace else?
Complete boss-like. It was pretty cool to see. And he was controlling the conversation. He was seeing all the different materials and stuff, and
This one needs to be a little bit longer.
Make the tail longer.
then they come back, and then you start talking about price again, and she just instantly goes down to $3.30. It's like she completely forgot about the price that she originally said. So then Steven starts doing things with his calculator, and then he's showing it to him, and then he's showing it to me, and then we're just like, no, like the number's not working.
Problem is, the price is still a bit high.
He's like looking at more, and then he's like, he comes back and he's like, shows like, I want it for this price, which was $2.14. From $4, he's asking for $2.14.
But by our third shipment, we're going to start wanting terms. We're going to want to be able to put whatever's down and then payment 30 days, 60 days.
We tell them what we want, we leave. It wasn't even maybe like 20 minutes, and the lady on WeChat comes back, is like, hey, we can do $2.14. Incredible. It was from $4, almost half, 50% off, just like that, in less than 30 minutes of work. So it was pretty cool to see that, see how Steven negotiated there.
That was fun. Notice we started off with a retail price of $19.99. The original price that she offered us was $4. That's a 5x multiplier. A lot of people would be happy with that, but that's not what we're going for now. With a 60% tariff, that would have been $2.40 for a total of $6.40 a unit. She also came back saying $3.30. That's approximately a 6x multiplier. Again, that's not what we want. We got the price down to $2.14 a unit. That is a 9.3 multiplier. And with a 60% tariff, which equals $1.28, our total per unit out the door would have been $3.42 a unit, including what we would have spent for tariffs as they came into the United States. That's why you want a 9x multiplier. If all of your competitors have to pay $6.40 out of their pocket for every product that they sell, and you only have to pay $3.42 out of your pocket for the products that you sell, who's going to win? That's right. We're here to make money. It all comes down to money. You make money this way. So let's talk about what I actually did. Right away, she knew I was the boss. How did she know? Well, first of all, I had my staff with me. I spoke with confidence. I wasn't frightened. I wasn't rushed. I showed patience, which we'll talk about in a moment. I had product knowledge. I had market knowledge. I did little things that made them aware that I was familiar with manufacturing in China. I knew where to sit. I knew how to sit. So all of this establishes me as a boss. But there are more things as well. Once she came up with the price, don't be afraid of saying no. If it's the wrong price, say no. You have to know your target price coming in. If you don't know your target price, then you don't know when to say no. So I just dismissed her offer of $4 a unit for 500 pieces. I always advise people, don't be the first person to mention price, because the first person who mentions price, all that is an invitation. It's saying, hey, we're open for business. Let's dance. Let's talk. And it's the same thing whether they tell you what the price is, whether they give you a pro forma invoice after they tell it to you, whether it's something you see on Alibaba, just online. That's just an opening. That's not the final price. Don't accept it and say, wow, that's great. The other thing is, it was a 500 pieces. That's not a bad MOQ, but MOQ is something FBA sellers obsess over. I did not. I did talk to her about our business plans. I mentioned where we were going to be in 2 years, and I tested her reaction because I wanted her to know that we were serious. Now, I did not say this is where we're going to be here, and next month this, and in 6 months there, and 12 months, and so on. I did it the other way around. I started by saying in 2 years' time, we expect to be shipping X amount of product. By the way, we want to make sure that you sign an NNN because we don't want you selling our product. We don't want it showing up on shelves anywhere, so on. So what did that do? That established right away that I'm a serious player, that I'm going to be doing large quantities 2 years from now, not the first order. I didn't get to that, but I did establish where we want to be. And then I changed the topic. So we're not even talking about MOQs anymore. By the way, let me go back a step. When I said where I want to be, I didn't talk about numbers of units. I talked about numbers of containers. You want to know how many units fit into a container? If you're my age, you remember what a bread box is. 10,000 bread box fits into a 40-foot container. So if your product, like this Red Panda, is about the size of a bread box, then we knew immediately 10,000 were in a container. So instead of saying we expect to be selling 30,000 every quarter, we could say we expect to do 3 containers every quarter. Same numbers, but you sound like you know what you're talking about. And then, as I said, I changed the topic immediately. I wasn't concerned about quantity. I didn't want her to think that I'm obsessing over quantity. So instead, I talked about IP protection. And that let her know she had a chance to come back positively and to help sell themselves. Oh, yes, of course, we understand that. We're not going to do that. That gave her a chance to be to be selling themselves to us, which is what you want. You want them to be selling themselves to you. And we did that by turning around the MOQ to something else that she wanted to talk about. So I controlled the conversation. Sadiq mentioned that I controlled it like a boss. But reality is I was communicating my value to them through carefully curated comments, establishing that doing business with us is beneficial to them, just like the statement. In 2 years' time, we're going to be doing 3 containers every quarter. That lets them know that doing business with us is good business for them without me bragging and saying, oh, I'm the biggest, whatever. They've heard that. That's bullshit. Once she knew the value that I could bring, the benefits of doing business with us, she came down in price. So she came down to $3.30, which is about a 6x multiplier, before we began the negotiation, because she realized what her opening move was, if this is a chess game, was the wrong move. And she wanted to pretend that never happened. I don't remember that. Let's just talk about $3.30. The price was still too high, but I avoided getting into a discussion with her right away about the price. Instead, I pretended she wasn't even there. And I talked to my staff and very analytically, this price is just not going to work for us. I know she was listening in, but notice my posture. I was very calm. I was looking at it, trying to make a decision on whether this is something to go forward with or not. My body language was speaking volumes. We still hadn't gotten to the negotiation. She was listening in. And then I turned around and I gave her my target price, actually slightly lower than my target price. And I also added payment terms. Now, notice that when I said 3 months, in 3 months, and then I realized I did the wrong thing. That's not the way you do 3 in China. This is the way you do 3 in China. So I quickly changed it, again, to establish that I understand that I'm in China doing business the Chinese way. She did not have an immediate answer, so we walked. It's perfectly okay to walk. That's not a bad thing. And she then came back and said, yes, yes, yes. That was a very easy negotiation. If she had said no, there are more things we can do, and we'll talk about those in a moment. In China, there are different ways of negotiating behaviors, expectations, than there are in Western countries, the US, and so on. In Western countries, we're very process-oriented. Let's do this, this, this. And the goal is always to end with a deal. It's not the way it is in China. And time is money. Let's get this done. I've seen gurus, Amazon gurus, talking about, because they're so experienced, they see 6, 7 factories in a day. No, when you visit your factory, you're going to see it's an all-day affair. Time is not money. Time is an investment in the business you're doing together. And notice how I talk. It's a conversation. That's the way the Chinese approach negotiation, as a conversation. I've been told that there's no Chinese word for negotiation. I don't speak Mandarin, so I don't know that, but I believe it's true. Now, behaviorally, culturally, they love to haggle. And it's not the haggling you're going to haggle over T-shirts in the market or something like that, but it's a back and forth. It's a dance. And they're going to learn a lot about you, and you're going to learn a lot about them as you have that conversation, what you say, how you say it, and so on. And in China, unlike American and Western negotiation, you may end with an open-ended question. You may not end with an actual conclusion. And that's what you saw here. They knew what we wanted, and that was enough. And we ended. And she got back to us within 20 minutes, letting us know that they agreed to our terms. Also, in the US, it can be very confrontational. Oh, no. That's not what we're going to do. And we're not going to keep on listening to you. No, it's not a fight. In China, always let them save their face. Don't be confrontational. Be direct, but be respectful. Don't insult them. Don't treat them poorly, and so on. All of business is there's differences between China and Western cultures. In Western culture, we bargain from strength. I knew someone years ago who did negotiations for a major aircraft company, and this guy stood 6'8". He was a huge guy, intimidating. That's confrontational. That's dealing from strength. That's Western negotiation. It's not Chinese negotiation. In a Western negotiation, you always seek to win. Sometimes, and I see this a lot in the Amazon world, attitude is treated more importantly than knowledge. It's this idea of fake it till you make it. That's not the Chinese way. Great saying that's used often is all is fair in love, war, and business. No, that's not. That's not the Chinese way. Lose that attitude. And do not lie or exaggerate or obfuscate, which means muddy the truth. In China, kings negotiate with kings. So right away, if you start off by saying, oh, no, I'm not the owner of my company. I'm just a lowly little purchasing manager. My boss is going to fire me. Oh, no, don't do that. That's embarrassing. That's pathetic. Treat others with respect. Treat the people you're dealing with respect, but also, frankly, respect yourself. If you're the owner of your company, own it. Stand up, be proud. You're an entrepreneur. You deserve to be treated right. Now, why do I say, and I say it a lot, kings negotiate with kings? Because in a Confucian culture, there's a lot of respect for social roles, and the boss is a social role. There's certain respect that's expected. Try saying that. There's a certain amount of respect that's expected for anyone that's the boss, and you are the boss. Knowledge is value. This fake it till you make it doesn't work. In this particular negotiation, I was talking about some of the fabrics. There was minky. There was a flannel fleece, which is different than a polar fleece. I knew what I was talking about. She knew that I was talking about. And that was very, very important. In a moment, we'll explain why all of this is important. But now you understand why I did certain things that I did. Now, be aware, in China, being more clever than everyone else is valued. So they will try to outsmart you. And shame on you if you let them do it. But they'll also try to outsmart their own partners. And afterwards, it's nothing personal. They'll still go to dinner with you. Another virtue is patience. They expect us to be impatient. So one of the best negotiating techniques you can use, after you put out a price, after you tell them what you need to have, after they give you a price, respond like this. Think about it. Let them know you heard them, but be silent. Silence is a vacuum. They will use that against us, but you can use that in negotiating against Chinese factories as well. It's not a characteristic they expect Westerners to have. Now, you've heard this a lot, not just from me, you've heard it from lots of gurus. The goal of a negotiation is relationship. So listen to the words that they use. They don't say that they've worked with someone, they work for someone for the last 8 years. They say that they've cooperated for the last 8 years, because there's no real word in English for this business cooperation relationship. So cooperation is the closest English word they can use to a business relationship. But this is interesting. There's a movie that comes out at Christmas every year called Love, Actually, and there's a great scene with the Prime Minister talking about having a press conference with the President of the U.S. And after the President of the U.S. says something swarmy about our special relationship with the UK, the Prime Minister comes back and says, interesting word, relationship.
I love that word, relationship. Covers all manner of sins, doesn't it? I fear that this has become a bad relationship. A relationship based on the president taking exactly what he wants and casually ignoring all those things that really matter to Britain.
It's the same thing here. A relationship is good, but it does not mean the best price. You want the best price. Remember, this is all about money. Now, if you want the best prices, you want Guanxi, which is more than a relationship. It is a mutually beneficial relationship. Notice I during that get to know you part in that negotiation, I didn't start boasting and bragging. As I said, I very carefully indicated that I was knowledgeable, that I knew the market, that I was more than an e-commerce seller. I included some physical retailers in my distribution and my sales channels, that I had a strong business plan. Now, why did I not want to be known as an Amazon seller or an e-commerce seller? Well, that was a lot of benefit you brought back in 2014 if you could sell their products on Amazon, because Chinese nationals were prohibited from selling on Amazon. That changed in 2015. And these days, every supplier, every factory, every trading company has a photo booth set up because they are all selling on Amazon. So if you tell them you're selling on Amazon, that's not a benefit to them. They're probably competing with you anyway. And they know that Amazon people oftentimes are bad risks. They don't understand their own business. Certainly, Amazon makes it difficult for people to understand, even if they're making money or losing money. So they know that the people who are just talking about selling on Amazon are oftentimes confused. They don't have confidence. They may not be placing big orders. They may want to have very small, unreasonably small orders, and so on. So if you let them know, oh, I sell on Amazon, that's not a benefit. You want to show them other ways that you bring benefits. That's how you establish Guanxi. And what you want to do is you want to get the lowest price. Remember, we want to make money. The way that they create price is in 3 layers. The bottom layer, time, labor, materials. Every factory costs the same thing. Any product you create costs time, labor, materials. Above that, they have to keep the doors open and lights on. That's operational costs. They have to pay people. That's GA. And then on top of that is how much money can they make on this sale? How much profit can they make from you? There are only 2 things you can impact. That top layer, how much they think they can make from you and make on this sale. And the bottom layer, time, labor, materials. Those are the only 2 things you can impact. That's where you want to focus your conversation. So here are some specific techniques now that you put the whole thing together. Start off knowing your target price. That's just good business, but also it allows you to know if you have a good price. If you don't know your price, how do you know if it's good or bad? You can't just think, oh, they offered me $10 and I want to bring it down by 20% because my ego's involved. This is not about ego. This is business. Know if you're making money or not. So you have to start off knowing your target price. And then remember the very first price they give you, whether it's a pro forma invoice, whether it's just verbally, whether it's printed online, that's just an invitation to do business. That's where you start. That's not the negotiations yet. And if you do have to give your price, if you do have to give out numbers, then start below your target price. Remember, this is a haggling culture. This is a negotiating culture. And what you want to do is they're going to start here, you're going to start here, and you start coming to the middle. Not this split the difference. That's not the way it works. If you're going to increase the amount that you will pay for it, then you increase it in small increments. Be patient. Don't be afraid to say no. And when you do agree to pay a little bit more, you always get. Never give without getting. So if you're going to come up a little bit, you expect them to come down a little bit. You're going to come up a little bit more, they should be coming down. And if they can't come down, maybe there are other things you can get. You can get better payment terms and so on, but never give without getting. Now, you're stumped. It's not going anywhere. What did you do to continue getting the price down? Be a 4-year-old child. Ask why. Go right down to the components and find out which components cost more, what components can be taken out or replaced with a different version. For example, if you're doing a knapsack, A YKK zipper sounds wonderful, but it's also super expensive. Maybe you don't need that. So you can take that out. You make these design changes so that your product can cost less. It also, interestingly, allows them to have the opportunity to drop the cost and saving face. Paul Barron was with me in China, and we saw a great example of that. But the reason you're making those design changes, those trade-offs, is because now you're impacting time, labor, materials. Maybe by putting a little mark someplace, it will allow the worker who's screwing something on to stop at the exact place you need them to. And that saves them, 25 seconds on every piece. In a 10,000 piece order, that's a lot of time. And you're paying for time, labor, and materials. So little things like that. That's called design for manufacturing, DFM. Little things like that, trade-offs, DFM, that impacts time, labor, materials. The haggling, the increasing the price, being patient, that's the top layer. That's how much they can charge for this particular order or what they can charge you for. And all of that also comes from being aware that you're a boss and you know what you're doing. And then don't be afraid to walk away. It's not the right price. Or if it looks like everything's good, but they can't give you a final answer, don't be afraid to walk away. Like you saw in this video, we walked away. They came back 20 minutes later and said, yes, we like your price. So when you negotiate with your Chinese factories and suppliers, always treat them with respect. Always use WeChat. It lets them know that you understand the way business is done in China. Every single person who's gone to the Canton Fair or met with a factory in China, if you give them your WeChat ID, their responses are always surprise and delight because it lets them know that you understand Chinese culture. It's not what's up. It's not the same. And I know that if you're in India watching this, it's difficult to get WeChat. Always talk on WeChat. Another always ask for payment terms. They're going to say yes more frequently if you ask about terms at the very beginning than if you do 3, 4, 5 orders down the road. And again, this is something that people get surprised by. Say, oh, but after 3, 4 orders, 5 orders, a year of doing business together, they know that I pay on time and they know that I'm good for it and everything else. And yes, they do. But they also know that they don't have to give you terms because you've been paying on time in full and everything else. The easiest time for them to say yes to terms is that very first conversation. So always ask for terms. It'll be a lot easier at the very beginning. There's some nevers. Never ask for DDP. That's like going to a motorcycle race and saying, I ride a bicycle with training wheels. No, DDP means that you're unaware, you have no experience, and you're putting training wheels on your bicycle. Also, never make them lose face. Gosh, I've got a factory owner I'm dealing with right now for one of my students, and I met this guy in person, and he is, gosh, I don't trust him at all. He's just a terrible person to work with, but I don't say that to his face. Always treat them with respect. Never ask for a FNSKU. That immediately establishes you as Amazon and Amazon only. You can work that. That's going to be on your package, and that's going to come at the end of the. That's going to be on your package, and that's going to come at the end of the process. So right now, you don't have to mention FNSKU. And don't mention small orders, not at this point. Negotiate for large orders. If you want 500 pieces, negotiate for 2,500 pieces. And then when it's time to start off with a 500 piece order, ask them, what's the surcharge? How much extra do I have to pay? Because I'm only going to do 500 to test the market. And they'll come up with a surcharge. And then, this is important, ask them, can I apply that to my next order? This way, when you have the first order and the second order, and the first order is paying a surcharge, the second order is now that's big enough and you're not paying a surcharge, that gets applied back in. It's a wash because when you do the math, you're paying the lowest amount for all of your products. It washes out. So ask for a surcharge. Sometimes, and this has happened, I don't know why it happens, but it happens. It's not uncommon. They'll say, oh, no surcharge. So, But always don't start talking about small orders. Talk and negotiate for large orders. Samples. My dad used to say, never buy a car that's made on a Friday afternoon or a Monday morning, because everyone in Detroit would be going off and having drinks. You want to see you want to buy a car that's on a Tuesday afternoon. And when you ask for samples, you want to see what comes off of the assembly line on a Tuesday afternoon. So you want an example of something similar to your product that's already, they have quality control, and you can see how it comes off the assembly line. That is the sample. Now, when you're looking for a prototype or a model, that sample is, do they understand exactly what they want, what you want? Do they understand what you want? And these are made one-off by someone in a special workshop. It's not going to be the quality you're going to see when it comes off the assembly line. That's what you're looking for when you get a sample, that quality. And for that, you never pay. Don't pay. Pay for shipping if you're not in China, but you don't pay for a sample that comes off the assembly line. That's for you to judge whether or not this factory has quality. And I alluded to this earlier, but please never think you are not worthy of doing business with any factory. I have clients working with some of the largest factories in China. I have clients working with small factories. All they care about is whether or not you know what you're doing, whether you can make money with your product. They want to make money. You want to make money. And you are an entrepreneur. You deserve respect anyway. So this idea of hiding who you are, this idea of making up lies so they think you're worthy of doing business with, you are worthy. You're worthy of doing business. Believe that in yourself. And if someone tells you you're not worthy, don't deal with them. They're not good for you in any possible way. So let's put this all together. Know your finances. Always know your numbers, including what that target price is with a 9x. That's the only way you're going to get to it. Establish your value and the benefit they get by doing business with you. Treat them with respect. And of course, treat yourself with respect, please. If at all possible, meet in person. Why? It's going to be easier to negotiate. They're going to appreciate that you come and visit. Now, this is an important one. There are lots of gurus and coaches and YouTube videos that say, oh, if you go to China, they're immediately going to drop the price by 10, 15, 20%. That's bull crap. Nobody, no factory owner is going to say, wow, look, here's a Westerner that's walked into our factory. Let's all get excited and drop our prices and cut the pay to our workers and take food off the table from our children because we want to give them more money. No. If there's 10, 15, 20% waiting to be dropped in price because you show up, it's because you did not negotiate this way at the beginning, because you did the wrong negotiation techniques and you have left so much money on the table that they can turn around and give you 20% and they're still making too much money. You want an indication that your negotiation is not working? Go to China and they can immediately say, oh, we're glad you're here. Let's lower the price. That's just an indication that your negotiation was bad in the first place. And it's obvious when you look at it that way. So absolutely, be in person. Go there in person. Go to China. You get on an airplane, you come off an airplane. China's safe. It's easy. It's simple. That will help you negotiate better. But if you're automatically saving money, getting lower costs, lower price products by showing up, then sorry, that just is an indication that you've been overpaying for way too long. Don't negotiate the way you think of it in Western cultures. Have a conversation, shoulder to shoulder. Establish your value, not by boasting, but through carefully curated conversation, and be the king. Kings negotiate with kings. And a really good, easy way is bring along someone, have them act as your staff. Don't be afraid of saying no. Never be afraid of saying no. Never be afraid of walking away. A bad deal that you walk away from is a good negotiation. And a good negotiation doesn't have to have an actual solution. You can walk away and let them come back. You saw that yourself in this video. And finally, be gracious. So I get to be gracious here and say, thank you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped. I certainly enjoy it. I love doing this. We're in the best business in the world. If you want to reach me, here's some contact information. Steven at Product Development Academy. I hope this helps you, and I look forward to hearing from you if you want to talk. Thank you.